I don't know if you noticed, Josh, but I'm definitely going with a summertime look today. You've got your branded old Eskimos jersey on. I'm going Hawaiian.
Yeah. I mean, it's their first preseason game today out in Langley, so I thought, I'd rep the brand, all things considered. So I thought I'd get after it today.
Well, you did, and you look great. Today we have Kathryn McCaffrey as our community champion, and Kathryn works with a wonderful organization called Sports Central that does so much to get sports equipment into the hands of young people who are looking to play sports but may not be able to afford it. So Kathryn will be on in our second segment. Josh and I are going to be talking NBA primarily, a little bit of WNBA in segments 1 and 3. At the top of the hour, we bring in Doug McClain and Mark Michaud, no strangers to our show, and certainly no strangers to anybody who follows basketball in the city of Edmonton. Doug and Mark are longtime broadcast partners for the University of Alberta Pandas and Golden Bears. Doug also does football as well, and they are part of the broadcasting team for the Edmonton Stingers. So we're going to talk about the Stingers and the CEBL, top of the hour, among other things. And then at 11:30, Tim Roy, 20-plus years as the radio play-by-play voice of the Golden State Warriors, will be joining us, and we look forward to having an interesting conversation with Tim about the proud Golden State Warriors franchise, and talk about the Western Conference and what the Warriors are going to have to do to be relevant again. So great show today. But like we always like to start, Josh, let's go to our 3+1. You sent me in your notes beforehand what your questions are, and I'm really looking forward to discussing them with you.
Yeah. All right. So number 1, the Spurs just last night fall in game 3 to the Thunder. We've seen a lot of stellar play through and through from both teams. However, playing a little bit of the blame game here, Stephon Castle just needs to be better. 20 turnovers through the first 2 games. Then yesterday, 1 for 8 from the field, obviously gets 14 free throws. But all things considered, on the offensive side of the ball, he needs to step up.
It's a great observation. 20 turnovers in 2 games. I mean, of course, that's a ludicrous statistic. That just can't happen. And having 11 turnovers, he also had 11 assists in game 1. They found a way to win in double overtime. But 10 turnovers in game 2, too much. 1 turnover yesterday, but 1 for 8, like you pointed out. Obviously, he was in his head yesterday on offense. The one good thing he did to get to the free throw line as much as he did keep attacking. He did keep competing on both ends of the ball. But I think what we have to take into account here is the process of becoming a champion involves going through trial by fire. And we have to bear in mind how young the Spurs team really is. I mean, Castle is a young guy. So is Vassell. I mean, Wemby, 22. There are lineups on the court for the Spurs where everybody's under 23 years of age. This is not something that you just step into and you overwhelm your opponent, especially when your opponent is the defending champion, NBA champion, led by the 2-time MVP, with a deeper bench this year, if that's at all possible. So I think in Castle's case, he has to learn how to play in these kinds of situations. It's been pointed out, I think, and by the way, Josh, I don't know what your feelings are, but I think the broadcast team of Mike Tirico, Reggie Miller, and Jamal Crawford is just fantastic. And you don't like them. Interesting. Okay, I think they're fantastic. Tell me why you don't like them.
I can't believe you. I'm blown away right now. So let's go back to Monday night. All right. Wembanyama pulls the most insane shot that a 7'5" guy has ever pulled in his entire career, and pulling up from the logo and then swishing it. There should be, like, if Mike Breen was on that call, he would have debuted the triple bang. Like, to me, they give good commentary, and I'm not taking away from that. But they are sauceless. Like they it just seems pretty chalk, everything they do together. I like Tirico a lot, but like Reggie Miller is the color guy. He just has like the same like three things he says. Like, oh man, like I can. Oh, look at that. I'm like, come on, man, give us a little more. Give us something. But I'm not a Reggie Miller color guy.
I think Reggie Miller is better with Jamal Crawford. When he is the lone guy along with Tirico or whoever his broadcast partner might be, I would agree with you. I don't think he's particularly good, but I do like the way Crawford and Miller play off each other. And maybe I'm a bit biased because what I do respect are guys that have walked the walk and bring that kind of experience and intellect to the game and observational. And one thing I've liked about Reggie, honestly, is his emotional responses at times to the play of what's going on out there, particularly when they're reacting to Wemby. But hey, it's acquired taste, no matter who you like or who you don't like. But going back to your original point, Castle definitely has to be better. But boy, oh boy, don't you just think it comes down to the bench? SGA's finding his rhythm, showing why he's MVP. Everybody's playing well. Chet Holmgren's playing well. But the guys that are really, really making the difference are guys like Caruso, McLean. My God, they picked McLean up from Philadelphia. Who would have thought he would have these kind of games? But my goodness, the contribution of hitting shots, guys who are way, way above and beyond their regular season 3-point shooting percentages. Right now, they look like they're some of the greatest 3-point shooters in the league. They're just hitting everything.
Yeah, no, I can't take anything away from the Thunder depth. Like they have everything. Alex Caruso has probably been the second best player on the Thunder this series, and he's coming off the bench. Like it's psychotic. I like the pieces that they have coming off the Spurs bench. Keldon Johnson, I like Carter Bryant. They had Dylan Harper coming off the bench yesterday. I wish maybe they would play Harrison Barnes a little more. I know he's up there in age and everything, but having that veteran presence on the floor at times in a playoff game, a guy who's won 2 championships, I think would be valuable to have with a particularly young Spurs team, just in spurts of a game, maybe to like help calm them down at times. But that's where
we're going to come back to that in our third segment when we go into some quick hitters. We're going to talk about some coaching strategies, both on the offense and defense. I think you make a good point. I think not playing Harrison Barnes, not giving him a chance to come in and calm this young team down, I think that's a good suggestion, Josh, on your part, actually. So, we'll get into that. Let's go to question number 2.
Yeah, number 2. So game 3 tonight goes in the land. Despite the Cavaliers' stellar home record this postseason, they have 1 loss at home so far. I am now convinced the Knicks are going to sweep this series. They coming back down from 22 in game 1 and then sort of starting to stumble in game 2 and then just going, nope, like, all right, never mind. It's not happening. Like, we're going to stop this right now. We're going to nip this in the bud. We're not going to be the Cavaliers of 2 days ago. And then also with what they went through last year in playing the Pacers, I think like Jalen Brunson is just a man on fire, and he himself is going to will a lot of offensive production, again, particularly in that fourth quarter. But I had a lot of things coming into the series or just the playoffs, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns as defensive liabilities. Evidently, they have not been as poor defensive liabilities as what the Cavaliers have. So I think the Knicks are going to sweep this series now.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think the Knicks will win the series. But to me, of course, it all hinges on today. Whether if the Knicks take today, I agree with you that it's going to be a sweep. But I don't think that the Cavs, will find a way to will themselves to a victory in a fourth game. All up in the air. Here's the interesting test about today, though. Again, we have had great shooting. Josh Hart the other night. The reason the Knicks won so convincingly is Josh Hart had a career game. Definitely went out there with a chip on his shoulder after not being played in the fourth quarter. I think in game one, to finish my thought, I think Cleveland can beat the Knicks. I genuinely do. They are going to have to make some adjustments. One of the adjustments, and there was Draymond Green, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I respect enormously Draymond Green's defensive IQ. And he, in his podcast recently, talked about why are the Cavaliers putting Harden on an island with Brunson. Brunson, I mean, that's like having a Thanksgiving dinner when Jalen Brunson gets matched up one-on-one out front with James Harden guarding him. But that, to me, is just sloppy defensive decision-making and preparation on the part of the Cavaliers. There's no reason for that. There are options. There are ways to get another player on. There are ways to help Harden more. And again, we're going to talk about that in our third segment a bit. But, you very well could be right. Maybe they can't will themselves again to another home victory and go back into New York tied 2-2. I think they can. I think they're going to win today. You talk about drawing on experience, and you mentioned correctly what happened last year against Indiana as part of their experience. But their recent wins against Detroit and Atlanta, where they were down as well, I think gives them a lot of confidence. The key to me, though, is Mobley. I mean, we can talk about Donovan Mitchell. You can talk about Harden. They're known quantities. But Mobley is the key here. He has to go out of his shy personality comfort zone and assert himself if the Cavaliers want to have any chance whatsoever at competing in this. He cannot sit back. I think he had 14 in the first half. Then he disappeared. Didn't score in the second half. You can't do that at that level, being paid that much, having a team rely on you that much. You can't just disappear like that. So today will be a great game.
I fully agree with you on the Evan Mobley thing. You got to take advantage of that Karl Anthony Towns matchup when you have the chance.
Absolutely. And you got to be aggressive. Yeah, they're not getting him the ball, but you got to be aggressive. You got to want the ball. And Mobley just literally disappears into the shadows when the game seems to get too fast or get away from him. He just has that, I think, in his personality, and because he's an extremely shy person. But that has to be overcome for him to become the player the Cavaliers need. Never mind the fact the player he could become. But the Cavaliers need that from him.
Yeah, no doubt. We do have a little bit of a bonus question here, just coming in from the text line. Kyle, he says, do you guys think that whoever comes out of the East has a chance against OKC or the Spurs, but that's not happening? Hashtag Thunder Up. Does the East have a chance in the finals against the West opponent?
Well, probably not. I don't know how anybody could have a chance right now against the Thunder. I'm going to be curious, and again, I keep saying this, but I think our third segment today is going to be a good one because we're going to talk strategy, and we're going to go into the weeds about what adjustments can be made, not just by the Spurs but by the Cavs, and also by whoever comes out of the East to compete, have the chance to compete against the Thunder. I mean, if you've got guys like the second Jalen Williams hitting threes at the way he is, if you've got Caruso who's just in a zone and locked in. Here's the thing though. There is karma in basketball. Caruso is getting wide open shots. The Spurs have to do a better job of not leaving the shooters on the Thunder so wide open in trying to get the ball out of SGA's hands. But having said that, these guys, all of them, are good shooters. They're not this good. At some point, they're going to start missing. And that's what the Knicks, in one respect, has to hope for, is that you're going to find out that they become themselves again. Because right now, they're not themselves. They're out of their minds in how they're shooting the basketball. The rim looks like it's 10 feet across. Everything is going in. That's going to change, and they're going to have to win ugly at some point. And I know from the Spurs standpoint, they hope that's game 4. But to Kyle's very good question, probably not, Kyle, but the Knicks are a surprisingly tough team. I doubt their offensive abilities to be able to score because the Thunder can really guard. So you have to say they're a prohibitive favorite for the Thunder to beat whoever they face.
Again, wholeheartedly agree. Bad radio on my part. We'll jump over to number 3 really quick. If we go all the way back to the beginning of the week, we did see that thrilling double overtime game between San Antonio and OKC. San Antonio obviously taking it. Of the playoff games in the last decade, I would say that game ranks in the top 5 best playoff games.
Well, you know what? I would go back a lot further than that. I think that is in I think you have to call that an epic game because it was back and forth. It was a slugfest. You had a phenomenal individual performance by Wemby with Wilt Chamberlain-like numbers. The Thunder, young as they are, found a way to defeat the defending NBA champion with the MVP. They bothered the MVP that night. Certainly SGA has adjusted to that. But I think I think that it's definitely in the top 5 in the last 10, but I'd say it's top 10 in the last 30, in my opinion, because I just can't see how many games would be much better than that.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about it when I was making up the third question because there was a lot of talk about it this week. Obviously, like it was unreal. Sure. And so, like, I was going back, well, okay, last decade, it's 10 years ago, obviously we have Game 7, Cavs-Warriors. That's number 1 with a bullet, like, no doubt. Yep. I think there's Game 7 between the Raptors and 76ers in 2019, first Game 7 buzzer beater ever. Like, I would probably put that above, but that's also bias on my part, wholeheartedly. But I also think about Game 6, Warriors versus Celtics in the finals just a few years ago. And then I was like, ooh, what else could I even think of? Maybe one of the Pacers games last year, maybe. But like, I cannot believe the absolute meal that we were treated to in game 1 of this series to make us go, oh, like this is shaping up to be an all-time classic.
This is like a buffet at Ruth's Chris. I mean, that was so satisfying to watch a game like that where two teams were absolutely throwing their bodies and everything they had in trying to find a way to win. It was ultimate competitive zeal and effectiveness, and the clutch shots, everything, everything about it was just fantastic. We're going to do our +1 when we come back for our third segment, but please stay tuned. We're going to do our community champion segment next and bring in Kathryn McCaffrey from not Sport Edmonton. I apologize. I always get Sport Edmonton mixed up with Sports Central, and I'm really excited to bring Kathryn in. So you're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with the great Josh Fenwick, here on your sports leader, Sports 1440. It's an Electric Light Orchestra, ELO morning today. We're going to be featuring some of their greatest hits from the 70s, and they were such an influential band. They were one of the first bands to really, as their name indicates, really start working with the technology that was developing 50 plus years ago, and had such an influence on music that we even listen to still today. Our community champion segment is one that I look forward to every week, and it's brought to you and sponsored by the great people over at Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, talk to Randy and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward and honest advice with access to the best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, because they certainly will. They'll do what's best for you, your family, and your business. To find out more, contact them at innovativebenefits.ca. That's innovativebenefits.ca. And I'd like to welcome in Kathryn McCaffrey from Sports Central. Kathryn, thank you so much for joining us today on Hoop City.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thanks for allowing me to be here.
Well, Kathryn, you sent me an email. I send out a weekly newsletter, basketball oriented, of course, and I appreciated your comments. You talked about your relationship with the Stingers, but I'm familiar with Sports Central. I've known Janet Tominick, who you work with for a long
she's a
time.
Wonderful CEO.
But yeah, and you guys do amazing things, but not enough people know what those amazing things are. So first things first, tell our listeners what Sports Central is all about.
Absolutely. So we are a registered charity. We do sports equipment. We receive, repair, refurbish, and redistribute gently used sports equipment to kids aged 4 to 17 and families facing financial hardship. So we've got various donation sites around the city, most retail sporting goods stores, most police stations, most fire halls, and a few others that are all listed on our website. But we're just looking for that gently used sports equipment that is sitting in everyone's garage, sheds, or basements. I know it's in there, and we're just asking for it so we can give it to kids for free.
I mean, wow. That is a big wow. And not only the wow has many layers to it, because it's not only the end result, which is the most important aspect of what you do, which is helping young people 4 to 17 get equipment so they can participate, but to get the kind of support within the community in the various locations for drop-offs. That's a big wow as well, isn't it, Kathryn? Are you finding that more and more people are becoming aware of what you offer and are sharing their gently used equipment, as you say?
Yes, we're finding as we put our names out there again, we're just reintroducing ourselves to the world. For the last 35 years, we've been in the same location across from the old Rexall place. We have just relocated to a much larger facility that is not only a larger facility, but it's all of our equipment consolidated into one. We were spread out over 4 buildings, 2 of which we owned, and the other 2 we were just storing equipment there. And probably about 20 C-cans once we added it all up. So really just trying to consolidate it, make it more efficient. But now that we've got this bigger building, we need to fill it up with volunteers so we can actually action that. We're getting more equipment repaired. We're getting more bikes fixed. That's such a big one for us, is repairing bicycles. It's something that a lot of us kind of take for granted. When I talk to people about Sports Central, I say, how many people played a sport? How many people here owned a bike? And I usually get some laughter because it's just built into being a kid. You have these things. But the reality is, especially after COVID, I'm not above blaming COVID, but we see more and more families that are accessing our services. We helped 12,706 kids, and we provided them with 49,011 pieces of equipment. With our recent move, we're projecting in the next 3 to 5 years that we're going to be helping 25,000 kids, but we really need the volunteer power to do it. So kind of why I'm here today, to talk to your listeners.
Well, I'm so glad you're here today, Kathryn, and I'm talking to Kathryn McCaffrey with Sports Central. Let's talk about the volunteer recruitment. How do people find out how to volunteer, what to volunteer for, and what's involved? What would be the best avenues for them to find this information out, Kathryn?
Yeah, our website, we did a recent website overhaul in the last year just to make sure that all the language was really clear and all the pages that people need to go through are super accessible. So just www.sportcentral.org. And various different jobs. It's anything from actually driving our van. You show up at Sports Central, we give you the route for all the donation spots to go to, and you go to those spots, you fill up your van, and it's quite heartwarming to see all the generous donations. Then on the back at Sports Central side, we've got volunteers that will sort it by size, by sport, by level of repair. Then we go into our repair shop where we're, checking out and making sure gently used helmets are safe for the families to use. We're sharpening skates because that's just another barrier for families. It's about $10 for an off the street sharpening now. And when families have to leave our building and then go to one other spot, that's just more work for parents. I'm a parent myself, and it's a lot of work just to get in and out of stores, taking kids in and out of car seats, that sort of thing. So trying to remove the barriers from families as best we can. Then once we receive an order and the equipment is all repaired, we can either outfit a kid through our front doors, or we're sending it to different communities, either in our community, regional, or more local, or we're sending them more regionally up to, Fort McMurray or Loon River, all kinds of different areas. Because we're serving not just Edmonton, we're serving Red Deer all the way up to the northern border of Alberta. So it's not just within our city; it's wherever the northern border of Alberta takes you.
Okay, so you have volunteers, obviously, doing a variety of things, from picking up to sorting to getting things ready. Now let's talk about how you reach the end users. How do organizations, how do communities find out about you, and then how do they communicate with you about what their needs are, both individually and perhaps for an organization or a group? Yeah,
so we're serving kids and families through our front door. We're working with a lot of agencies. A lot of people have heard of KidSport. KidSport does the registration side of things, and right on their application process, it says, does your child need equipment? And if they check that box, we're getting that referral directly from KidSport. So we're a wonderful partnership. One cannot exist without the other. And then we've got other organizations that'll help with the programming side of things. So we're working with agencies such as KidSport, Catholic Social Services, the Newcomer Center. We've got about 75 and growing different agencies. There's also a full list of those on our website. Then we are we're allowing families to self-refer. Maybe they're not working with an agency, they just want to advocate for themselves. We're going to allow them to do that. We provide some information about how they can qualify, what they need to show us. Then we've got our really amazing community outreach program, and we believe this is going to be our largest area of growth in the next 3 to 5 years. So really, we're working with communities, community leagues, and schools, and again, locally and regionally. So if there's a community league, I live in the Ritchie neighborhood. If we happen to have an ice rink, I know that we would have reached out to most of the community leagues that have rinks attached to them, because we're going to offer them some recreational skates for kids, skates and helmets, of course. Every time a pair of skates leaves our doors, it gets a helmet too. But we want kids to be able to try the sport. We're serving a lot of new Canadians as well. So many people have never seen snow or ice before. So what an entirely new, wonderful experience that we can help support them and, get them experiencing things that are very much Canadian, very much Albertan.
I'm talking to Kathryn McCaffrey from Sports Central here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Kathryn, I hear genuine passion and enthusiasm in your voice about what you're doing.
Yes.
What is it about what you're doing? And maybe this is an obvious question, but I don't really think it is. What is it in what you're doing that drives this passion that you're expressing right now?
Well, thank you for asking. So many things. As a young kid, I was always really active. I found gymnastics very, very young. And then when I kind of aged out of that sport, I went to track and field. And I thrived in the athletic sphere. I found that if I didn't have my athleticism, I had a really hard time focusing in the classroom. I was very much one of those kids. So my sport really allowed me to excel. I was on the University of Alberta track and field team. I was the captain of the team in my last year. I won a national silver medal in the indoor hurdles. It really impacted me. I believe it allowed me to create the meaningful relationships I have along my professional career. It's allowed me to excel in my profession. And then when I became a mother, it became all the more apparent that families need to have these things. I was given a bicycle from a friend, and that's because I have someone in my community. Imagine being a new community member, a new Canadian, and not knowing anybody, not speaking the language, not knowing what the climate is like. We're allowing these families to simply let their kids be kids. We really believe every kid deserves to play, and every kid deserves to have a bike. It's that simple. So that's really what drives me. It's my own history and seeing my kids grow up in front of me. My oldest son is now aging into our service ages, and I just really see how we're supporting everyone in our community.
Well, Kathryn, I really appreciate you sharing that wonderful background, because it is significant, and I think what it demonstrates clearly is the impact that sports can have on people and how it affects their life, not just when they're participating or competing in the sport, but how its tentacles grow throughout and permeate relationships, motivations, self-esteem. All of those things can emanate from sports. Sports, along with many other activities, can be just such a godsend for people. Mm-hmm. And now you're dealing with people, as you have articulated very, very well, who are in need, real mm-hmm. need of not just financially. And I know that's a big part of it, but also mm-hmm. they're oftentimes, if they're new Canadians, they don't know where to start. So to be Absolutely. Able to link them into the equipment, and you said something key as well, and I am a passionate believer, and just such a passionate believer in the community federation that we have here in our cities. And Absolutely. I think that needs to continue to grow as a resource and an access point for so many people. Just so many remarkable, hardworking volunteers and that are helping people out in our community. But then when they link in with what you're doing, Kathryn, you're making a real difference in people's lives. And I'm so excited to hear about your plans for growth as well. Mm. Now, tell me, here we're going to end our interview on this. I want sure. Kathryn McCaffrey to give her best pitch to why people should reach out and become part of your efforts at Sports Central.
Well, our mission at Sports Central is to empower kids one piece of sports equipment at a time. So whether you are giving equipment, giving your time, or, giving a little bit of your hard-earned money, giving your tithe to Sports Central, everything is impactful. Every little bit can help change the circumstance for a kid or a family. So if you have any of that to give, we're really asking to dig into your community aspect and give back to Sports Central. We're helping kids and families, and we believe every kid deserves a bike. Every kid deserves to play.
Kathryn, you are fantastic, as is Jana, and I know all of the people that work with you. To our listeners and our viewers, please make the effort, find the time, give your equipment that you're not using anymore, get it down there, please. Volunteer your time. If we want to make a difference in our city, in our province, this is real. This is stuff that you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Don't let everybody else do it. You do it too. Give generously, folks. Pay attention to this. You're really helping people. And the other group I didn't mention, along with the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues, is your partnership with the unbelievable people and the unbelievable organization of Kids Sport. These are connectors that really are making a difference in people's lives, as are you, Kathryn. Can't thank you enough for coming on. Thank you for reaching out. I'm going to be in touch with you, too, about some 3x3 stuff, too, that will fit perfectly into what you're doing as well. But thank you so much for joining me today, Kathryn.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. It was fantastic to be here, and I'm looking forward to your call about 3x3. Let's get more kids playing sports.
Let's get more kids playing sports and making a difference in their lives, making a positive difference in their lives.
Absolutely. Let's get them outside.
Pardon me?
I said, let's just get them outside.
Get them outside playing. That's absolutely right. Kathryn
exactly.
McCaffrey from Sports Central. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thanks again.
Wow. I'll tell you, when that is just so uplifting when you get a chance to talk to somebody that is part of an organization that is really, really reaching out into the community, making a foray, making an impact in the community of truly helping young people. So like I said, go to the Sports Central website and please give generously to them. We're going to take a break right now. And when Josh and I come back, we're going to go into the weeds talking about coaching strategy. We're going to do a coaching huddle here on Hoop City with Paul Sir and Josh Fenwick on your sports leader, Sports 1440. Hoop City, Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. Josh, let's go into the weeds a bit about strategy. Let's start talking strategy here. I'm going to go back. We'll get to your Harrison Barnes comment in just a little bit, but I'm going to ask you an overarching question.
Sure.
Are the officials and I'm speaking specifically with San Antonio and OKC right now, are the officials hitting the balance on letting physical play be an important part of the game, letting it go without it affecting the game and not going too far? Are the officials hitting that balance, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I got into a big Twitter fit yesterday with a guy about how I did not.
That's what I love about Twitter. You're talking to a guy. You have no idea who the guy is.
Someone from our text line, Team D. We were just arguing for the sake of arguing, I guess. But
sure, fun stuff.
I do not think they had been hitting the balance. Like, I thought game 2 was a real. I didn't have a problem with it in game 1. I don't think. Like, it was like, yeah, some animosity. They didn't like each other. The defense that was played, particularly by Oklahoma City, like, I'm not trying to take anything. I'm not just trying to give the Spurs a pass on playing physical defense or anything at all. But what the Thunder were doing to me, I was like, okay, like this is crossing that imaginary. Like, has to be a line drawn somewhere, and it, like, if we're not drawing the line at like stepping on a guy's ankle so he can't get to a free throw, or pulling on a guy's hair because he got a rebound over you, or any of the things that Isaiah Hartenstein were doing, like locking elbows with a guy so that his back is to the basket to not be able to get a rebound. I'm like, okay, that's blatantly just against the rules. Like, you can't do that. And so I thought that they shorted up yesterday a lot with those 2 plays from Steph Castle in particular, where he was on a fast break to get a layup and was the recipient of 2 incredibly hard fouls. For both of those to get called, I was like, okay, like, they understand that the physicality that is being brought to this series is slightly more dangerous than just, oh yes, a physical series all in all.
Well, the one thing I would add to that, though, is one of the 2 hard fouls on Castle going in for a layup, which should have been uncontested. Mm-hmm. The second one against Mitchell was flagrant. But the first one wasn't, against Caruso. And it kind of begs the question, are the Thunder, and I am going to pick on the Thunder, are the Thunder a dirty team? My answer is categorically, absolutely. Mm-hmm. They're a dirty team. They're filthy. Now, other teams are physical too, but the Thunder go a level further. I do not like how they guard. I've never been a big fan of, and I relate this somewhat to hockey, like to what hockey allows for defenders to do against a player like Connor McDavid, to impede his ability to skate and to move because of what I consider to be bizarre clutching. Mm-hmm. But in the NBA, I think in order to take away the label of being a soft league, the pendulum swung so far in terms of allowing physical play, which then crosses that imaginary line that you referred to Josh, that, now it's dirty. Mm-hmm. Thunder are dirty. The locking elbows, the Castle hair pull, that was a one-off, sort of. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Castle kind of leaves himself open with the kind of hair that he has. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Hartenstein followed through on that pull is indicative of that. The 2 hard fouls, now that, like, they pale in comparison. People, if you want to see a hard foul, YouTube Kevin McHale's foul on Kurt Rambis in the Celtics-Lakers, and you'll see a hard foul. And he didn't even get a technical for that. He would have had 20 or 30 games suspended in today's NBA. And I'm not defending that. It was a filthy play by McHale, but oftentimes, and I believe that was 1980.
I think that would be 87. Ooh, 84. Never mind. I lied.
It might have been 86, but it was when the Celtics were down, and that kind of turned the tables. That seemed to be the play that galvanized the Celtics. They came back and won the NBA championship. But going back to the Thunder and going back to the officials, have they found the balance? No, not yet. They certainly haven't. I still am mystified at what's a foul and what's not at times. I think the way when you put smaller players like Caruso on Wemby, for instance, and they're digging their knees underneath his knees, that's just dirty. That's just dirty. And it's not intent to hurt, but it has the potential to hurt. And if the officials allow that to go to that extreme, it's one thing to be physical, to bump your guy, push him out further. Totally get that. But when you start digging into the knees, that goes too far. Lou Dort, great defender, filthy player. Mm-hmm. Can't stand the way Dort plays defense. He does way too many things that are way too dirty, off the ball, that are just unnecessary and inappropriate for a team. But if you're allowed to get away with it, you're going to get away with it. And obviously, it's in the Thunder's mindset. They're an excellent defensive team, but they add that extra amount of physical play that blends into that dirty play, Josh, that I think they just get it carried too far. Now, here's one other thing. We'll stay on the Thunder for a moment because I do in this segment really want to get into some of the strategy things that we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. But SGA, the ongoing issue is, does he flop, number one? Does he overextend his arm, number two, and not get called? Is he just so much better than the defender at drawing contact and baiting them into contact? And what are your thoughts on that? Does he go? My specific question: does SGA get away with too much, where he should either get no calls or get an offensive foul called by the way he extends his arm or locks his arm to create contact?
It's sort of this double-edged sword, right? Because the better you are, the more that refs are sort of willing to turn that blind eye to you. And so right. It's a mix of everything, because let's go back to like James Harden in 2018, 2019, where right. they'd taken away the rip-through rule, right? Like they were like, hey, we're not doing this anymore, because Dwayne Wade was a huge proprietor of that. He had figured out the loophole in the rules to, I can technically do that. Like if they're just putting one arm out, I can shoot up, and that's not technically a rip through. And they're like, dadgummit, like he got us. Like I can't believe we're gonna have to do that now. So like SGA is a very smart player, and I would not put it past him to go, oh yes, well, I know that I'm allowed to do this, and I know I'm allowed to do that, and also what he's allowed to get away with. So he is that talented offensively. There's a lot of falling on shots, but like I don't want to be the guy that subscribes to he is a foul baiting, free throw merchant, whatever, because he is so talented through the rest of his offensive game. Like he's just smarter than he's just smarter. Like it's just the way it is.
Well, and I would add one thing too, and I agree almost completely with what you just said, Josh. He is smarter, but he also works harder. Mm-hmm. Than everybody. Like SGA in the off season, his workout pattern has been, he goes back to Toronto, gets his buddies together and gets in the gym by himself with his friends and works on this stuff. I tie it back to what Dirk Nowitzki did with his trainer. I remember back in 2011 when the Mavericks won the NBA championship, there were a couple of features about Dirk working on his game with his German skills coach. Mm-hmm. And the guy looked like anything but a basketball coach. He's out there in jeans with a plaid shirt on and his hands in his pocket. And he's out there working with Dirk. It was more of a ballet practice than it was a shooting practice, because what Dirk was doing was rehearsing his exact footwork, moves, and shots to prepare for situations. And that repetition, much like a ballet dancer, is what then translates into games. And that's what we're seeing with SGA. This is all stuff he's worked on extremely hard and perfected, and then is able to translate it into a game situation, knowing what his defenders' tendencies are. Mm-hmm. So the only thing I would say, the only asterisk to it, because I think SGA's footwork, his ability to bait players defending him to get off balance and then draw the contact appropriately without diving into them. He goes into their arms, not into their body. Mm-hmm. But the only thing I think he gets away with too much is arm extension. Mm-hmm. There are many situations where he creates space for himself with what is a clear arm extension in the chest of his defender that, for whatever reason, either the officials can't see or they're reluctant to call, and maybe it's that star scenario that you're talking about. But that he does get away with that too much, in my opinion. But I want to jump over, Josh, to San Antonio and how they defend SGA. Sean Sweeney, their assistant coach, who has been getting a lot of TV time and a lot of conversation in the media, both by the broadcasters, but also by many articles. There was a major article in The Athletic yesterday about Sweeney and Don Staley being possible options for the Dallas Mavericks, for instance. And Sweeney played with my son Steve at Cretan Durham Hall in St. Paul, and nobody deserves it more than Sean. But he developed third best defense in the league, and in game one, it did a great job of disrupting SGA and making it a lot harder. Now, we talked about this. OKC's figured it out. Mm-hmm. My suggestion would be, why are you? This is one thing. Two things I don't understand in the NBA. Why are you guarding the best players 45 feet from the basket? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, why do you switch every screen? And this kind of goes to Draymond Green's point about James Harden. Why do you switch James Harden on to Jalen Brunson 40 feet from the basket when it's just like a wolf?
Fight through the screen.
Fight through the screen.
Just do it.
Send help. Switch some other way. There are ways to do it. But the big thing for me is, why are you guarding SGA 40 feet from the basket right into him? Because he's going to get you on his hip and he's going to blow by you. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of sending double teams to at SGA, but he's too long and he's too smart. When you send a double team, he'll find the opening. Somebody's wide open. Last night it was Williams and Caruso and McLean.
Yep.
You can't leave somebody wide open. And why run the double at him 45 to 50 feet from the basket? Why not run the double at him 30 feet from the basket, whereas there's a tighter, smaller bit of space that makes it harder to make that pass and also gives your defenders opportunities to step in the passing lane.
You'd also be able to funnel them more.
Funnel them more,
yeah.
And show help earlier. But there's a principle in teaching basketball: help and recover. Help and recover. But don't throw everything at SGA. He's just too smart. And now when you've got their and to the Spurs' defense, for their defensive strategy, you're picking your poison. Do you want SGA scoring all the time and going to the free throw line every time, or do you want to make somebody else score? Unfortunately, they're leaving Spurs players wide open. And right now, as we talked about earlier, Josh, the bench players are hitting everything.
Yeah, Chris Paul had a great breakdown of this, maybe on NBA Today a few days ago, where he was talking about in the NBA you have hot players and cold players. There are players who just get hot, and then there are players that can do whatever they want from cold. And SGA is what they consider a cold player because, well, they can score at any point. So in reality, don't let them get going early. Just let the other guys get going. Stop the cold player, which is why they focus so much defense on SGA, right? I believe I'm saying this correctly. Again, this is a few days ago that I watched this Chris Paul clip. Super smart. Go find it, everybody. But it was like, but you gotta find the balance, and particularly when it comes to OKC, is I remember when I subbed in for you a month back and had Andrew Schlecht on the show. I asked him what would be the one main detractor that would stop the Thunder from going back-to-back this year, and he said it was three-point shooting. And this was post McCain trade, who shot 2 for 10 yesterday, but is by far their best three-point shooter. They're just really hot from beyond the arc right now, but I think you're almost willing to live with that. They shot 48% from three yesterday, I think. I had it right in front of me. But that's way above their season average. Like,
right.
As the Spurs, you sort of have to be willing to go, yeah, well, they beat us beyond the arc tonight. We still don't feel we need to focus too much on that because what their bread and butter has been all year is 15 feet and in.
Good points. And, Paul's analysis is right on the mark. There's a counter school of thought, and this goes way back to Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. Bill Russell's defensive strategy when he was the player coach of the Boston Celtics was, I will guard Wilt. I will not stop him, but don't let his assists beat us. Mm-hmm. And so Wilt might get 40 on Bill Russell, who was one of the greatest defenders in the history of the NBA. But Wilt, again, great offense always beats great defense. Mm-hmm. But don't let his teammates beat you. So the counter, there's a balance in there somewhere where you can't leave guys that wide open that much and expect great results, because they're still not stopping SGA.
Yeah.
He still last night got to the free throw line, 15 times?
Yeah, right around there.
That's what you can't do. You can't have both go wrong. And I think that's what and I know that's what they're trying to figure out in San Antonio, is how do we disrupt this now, because they've adapted to our initial defensive strategy. There's another key, though, here. My final thought on this, on San Antonio primarily, because we're going to talk Knicks in the next segment with Mark Majot, because Mark's a hardcore, diehard Knicks fan. But Wemby has to establish and maintain his inside presence for the entire game. He really came to life inside in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, mindfully going into the low block and mindfully trying to get the ball closer to the basket. First half, he floated. Yeah. You cannot have Wemby float. That is a distinct advantage that they have to maintain and play inside out. Get the ball to Wemby. He doesn't just have to shoot every time he gets it.
Yep.
When they send 2 and 3 guys at him, like the Thunder in terms of finding the open players, Wemby is very capable of finding open players for the Spurs as well, which is going to make everybody else's life a lot easier, because if he's not inside, they can help off him. And that was what made it so hard last night for Harper to get going, plus the fact that he's injured.
Yep.
What a shame, of course, that Fox is injured too, because you really need all hands on deck for the Spurs to have a shot at beating this fantastic OKC team. Great discussion, Josh. Good job.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I coached once upon a time. It was only grade 8 girls, but I still coached.
It's still coaching. And we all have opinion. We're all armchair quarterbacks anyway. So we're not doing the actual work. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk CEBL, Edmonton Stingers, with the voices of the Stingers, Mark Majot and Doug McLean. And then we're going to talk Knicks and a bunch of other stuff as well. Here on your sports leader, Sports 1440 with Hoop City with Paul Sir and Josh Fenwick.